Hello, this is Brenda Renee, Mystical Empress. I am doing a relative's baby's astrological natal chart today. And it's an interesting chart. It's interesting to look at these charts when I know the family members and I get to see patterns repeated. And also, it's really cool to do a baby's chart when they're only 9 months old, and I get to tell the parents what to be looking for as the personality progresses. So we will start out. Today we're going to start a little bit different than I normally do. I usually start out with this first house, but we're going to get over here into the elemental basis. This little grid right here, a little bit blurry on your screen, but it shows the fire, air, earth, and water elements, and then it shows their qualities, how they express the energy. We have cardinal, which is a self-starter, fixed, which is more detail-oriented, and mutable, which is about communications and adaptability. Now, this little boy has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fire planets. Mercury, Venus, Uranus, his ascendant, and his Saturn. Now, as we look down the rows, he's got 3 planets in air, 2 in earth, and only 1 in water. So he has a dominant fire emphasis with a lack of water. And fire really gets you going and motivated, but it can also be so much that you burn yourself out. Water, on the other hand, is the emotional sensitivity. And when you don't have enough water in your chart, in your health, your body, it may cause you to be get dehydrated easily. So, Mom, I'm sure you're listening. You may want to pay attention to that. Make sure he's always getting plenty of fluids, because all that fire is going to burn up what little bit of water he does have. Next, this is what I call the hidden signature in the chart. You know, we've got all this over here going on, but this little grid here will tell you little secret qualities about the personality that may not be evident over here in the chart. So with this fire emphasis, we go down, up and down the column, and we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planets in cardinal signs. So the signature here is what sign is cardinal and fire? That's Aries. So he has a lot of Aries energy operating within this chart, within his personality. And he's going to be something else, let me tell you. Okay, now going back to our wheel. This is the astrological natal chart wheel, and it's divided into 12 sectors. You'll see little tiny numbers on the internal circle here, and each number represents a pie slice or a house focus. Also, in each pie slice, you may see little glyphs or symbols for the planets. Now, with his chart, many of the houses are occupied. Often that doesn't happen. So he's got his little fingers in many different pie slices and many different pies in this lifetime. And we will go through each one here. The first house is the most important house, and it's based on the time of birth. It sets this entire wheel. So when someone calls me and wants a reading, I say, okay, do you have your exact birth time? Well, I think it might be da-da-da-da-da. Might be is not good enough for a natal chart. It has to be precise, because this entire wheel is mapped out based on the time of birth that you give me. So now his birthday even was interesting to me. Number 1, he's born on May the 8th. Now, 8 is a very material number. It has Saturn influence, so it's very disciplined, very much work-oriented, serious. This is someone who's here, and he's a Taurus as it is, and he's born on the 8, which is a material number. And we're going to see this energy repeated in this chart. But the 8 energy is all about learning to efficiently navigate this realm, this earthly realm. It's also connected to money. Now, all of that is Taurian energy. So he's got a double dose here with this birthday. Then his birth time is 12/12, which I just thought was really cool. Okay, with that birth time, his chart begins on Leo ascendant or rising sign. You know, the ascendant is like the mask you wear, and it's also your early environment. You came into this life and you looked around, you said, okay, how am I going to survive in this environment? How am I going to survive with this family? He's got Leo on the rise. So Leo, it comes in with a Leo rising. You come in with a natural desire to perform. Everything, your whole perception of the way you look at the world, now we're talking about his ascendant sign, is how you're looking at the world thinking, how can I make the maximum impact? Also, I'm always on stage. Everybody's watching me. And generally, these children come into a household where the parent heaps lots of praise on them for their quirkiness, for their acting, because they're little actors and actresses. So they love to ham it up. So the more praise they get, the more they perform for you. They can be quite comical, but they're very much focused. They're uber aware their whole lives of the image they're projecting. These aren't people that would want to go out in public with hair all over the place and in, slouchy or, slacking in their attire, in the way they carry themselves, their hygiene. They have to be perfect. It's like having a king or queen in your household. Okay, so that gives us some indication here where we're going. And let me mention too, we already saw this fire. Leo is a fire sign. So we've got a lot of fire. Now, Taurians are generally not fiery people. But this little dude, he's not going to act a whole lot like a Taurus, I don't imagine. And this is why, we can find out people's sun signs and have like a little sketch of who they may be. And oftentimes it's accurate. But there's so much more to the picture than just that. I gotta plug this computer in. Give me just a second. I see my battery is running low, and it typically is every time I start to record. Come on. Okay, that didn't do it. So let's do it this way. Still not satisfactory. All right, I think my outlet doesn't work down here in my office. Okay, let's get this one plugged in. There we go. Okay, it's like I turned the lights back on for you guys. Okay, where was I at? All right, the Leo's the fiery energy. Now, there's a lot more to this picture. And when you're trying to figure out who somebody is, you can't just rest on the sun sign. Because as you will see, there's a much broader picture. Okay. Whew. I got all kinds of stuff going on here. Okay. Now, getting back to it. Now we're going to move over into the second house. And now this house is particularly highlighted for a Taurus because this is the natural home of Taurus. This is the house of material possessions, your values, and also your money. This house shows a hint of what you may do to create or manifest wealth and money. The interesting thing here, I would have to say he's one of the few people I get with this little guy in the second house, which is the North Node. Looks like a little headphone set. This is the most important part of the whole chart. And the reason being is because this North Node shows your soul's path in this lifetime. To me, it's the most important part of the chart. It shows why you came to this planet. It shows what your mission is, what you intend to get done this time around. So now, opposite the North Node is the South Node. North Node in second house, South Node in eighth house, okay? They're always opposite, and they never print out the South Node on a chart. The South Node shows where this person has spent many past lifetimes honing his gifts and talents in that area of life. The second house shows where he's meant to go in this lifetime. This is where the gifts are, and this is the downfall. Most people want to stay stuck in that South Node because it's comfortable, like an old pair of shoes. However, when they learn to move into this North Node energy, then their lives really take off, okay? And generally it takes an astrologer or somebody that's psychic or whatever to clue these people in on this is what your path is in this life, because most people don't naturally gravitate towards that path. They're scared of it. So in this lifetime, let me say to you, this little boy, he came from past lives of very strong Scorpio type energy, because that's the eighth house, but also his North Node is in Virgo, 0 degrees Virgo, and his South Node is 0 degrees Pisces. So there we got Neptune over there in that house, which is the planet of Pisces. So past lives were spent with Pisces emphasis. So what does that mean? That means that he may have had he had lifetimes in very deep spiritual pursuit. Also, art may have been very highlighted, the sublime expressions, creative expressions. Also, with this spiritual emphasis, it made him not necessarily be attracted or concerned with the material aspects of life. He didn't have to worry if let's say he lived in a monastery. He didn't have to worry about schedules and paying bills and, dealing with family relationships and all of that. He was kind of cloistered away from the world. Now, another part of that South Node, his past lives, is him being in, you've got many lifetimes. You don't just have one. But there was an emphasis at one point or another where he was actually caught up in maybe less savory interactions and relationships. I mean, it's really interesting how his chart comes together because he's got all these different polarities going on. The South Node in that 8th house, you could find yourself involved with mafia characters, even relating to people almost on like a servitude level, like you needed their help, their financial assistance to survive. Heavy stuff there. But you came in just like everybody does. This little boy came in to experience life and have soul growth. And soul growth doesn't happen with just light experiences and, a feathered nest. There's challenges along the way, and every soul chooses that. So he's coming from past lives where he was at one point he was very spiritually connected and not really of this world, kind of otherworldly. And B, where he might have gotten caught up in some, heavy duty stuff, like, the mafia, secret service, secret government organizations. It's a very intense placement. But now, and I will say, in those lifetimes that had all that negativity, there may have been a lot of power struggles and an incredible amount of drama. He's used to walking through the fire. Now, in this lifetime, things are meant to be much lighter for him. With this second house North Node, it's in Virgo, it's in the second house, which gives it a Taurus flavor to it. And what this means is, in this lifetime, he's no longer doing deals with underhanded people. He's making his own money. This is all about his independence, and that Aries emphasis on this chart really makes him an independent leader type anyway, and the Leo. But this North Node says, all right, nobody's going to take care of you in this lifetime. You have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do it yourself. He'll be a self-made man. If he gets involved with anyone that's, all about drama and chaos, and if he tries to slip back into that other worldliness, he's going to be off track. The Virgo North Node gives him an eye for detail. It gives him the ability to now really, the Taurus and the Virgo combined, gives him the ability now to really get with this planet, with this energy. Be here fully. You don't escape, and you don't, burn down the house. You build. He's going to be a natural builder this time. He's going to learn how to deal with the details of life, how to pay bills, how to budget money, how to build, a career, a family, whatever. So that energy is helped out with this Taurus sun up here, even though that's not a major part of his chart. With this North Node in the second house, that brings more of it in. So he's going to roll up his sleeves in this lifetime, and he's really going to get serious about this. He's not going to be allowed to be elusive or disappear. I'll just say this in here, though I don't necessarily see it as a problem. Drugs, alcohol, any kind of substance that puts him out of being in his body and being really conscious of this earth plane would really not be good for him. And that would be a form of escapism. Okay, moving on. Oh, well, let me say this too. Since I said the second house shows where a person, it's a hint of how they may make money. So his first house was Leo. Looks like his second house also has some Leo going. So that's the cusp of Leo there. So leadership, anything that puts him in an executive position or in a position to really shine. Those are some areas. And with this North Node in the second house, this shows where his luck is at in this lifetime. So if he does the work himself, money's going to be there for him. All right, now, let's see. The third house. Now, the third house is about your siblings. Now, he's an only first child here, so possibly there may be some more on the way. But the third house is siblings. It's also community, your immediate environment, especially when you grow older. It's also like your neighbors and your community you live in. It's also education from K through 12. So this shows us what that looks like for him. He's got Virgo on this house. It's also your communication style. So with Virgo on that third house, very conscientious about his communication, about his schoolwork, his studies. He also has Jupiter and his moon there. Now, Jupiter is the planet of luck and expansion. And I'll just say this here. If you're wondering what all these red and blue lines are, they represent communication, dialogue going on between the planets. Red is stressful and blue is harmonious. However, I don't rely on these because the aspects on this website are wider than I consider. The orbs are too wide for me. So I'll tell you which ones matter as we go. Jupiter, excuse me, as I said, is the planet of expansion and growth. This is going to be an important area for him, this area of life. He'll have goals and he'll have dreams around it. Writing may even come up at some point in his life. Okay, now his moon is here also, and the moon in a chart represents mom. Now his moon is in Libra. So let me stop right here. Taurus is his sun, his moon is Libra. Both of these signs are ruled by Venus, okay? Now this little dude's got a lot to accomplish in this lifetime. I can already see that. But with such a heavy emphasis on Venus, he's going to need to make sure that he doesn't get caught up in the sensuality of life. Venus loves comfort and loves harmony and good food and good drink and art and all of these things. And when you've got that much combined there, it can be a little excessive, maybe even self-indulgent. So mom may want to watch him when he's young as far as food and things, sweets especially. I know his mom, and I don't think she would let him lean on sweets, but I have to say what I see here. Okay, so getting back to this moon. Now with a Libra moon, this shows his mother's someone who wants and likes to keep the peace herself. Okay, Libra's all about harmony and relationships, and it hates confrontation. So this little guy, whenever I see somebody born into a family with Libra rising sun or moon, I know that they came into the family to be peacemakers. Libra's goal is relationships, harmonious relationships. So he's always going to be looking for harmony. And it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. On the negative side, it pulls back in all that Venus energy, wanting to keep the peace at all cost. Negating the individual's true needs just so they can keep everybody happy. So mom, you might want to really, lean in there and really get him to expose his true feelings about things, because his initial response is going to be, I'll say or do whatever I got to do to make everybody happy, okay? The Libra tends to make the individual attractive because Venus is the beauty planet, okay? Now his moon has itself caught up in what I call a T-square. And that's this red triangle here. This one matters. A T-square is an aspect in the chart. It's tense and it's kind of difficult. But I will say this at the outset. the most successful people in life usually have one or more T-squares. Okay, so this is a good thing, although it's tense. What happens is these 3 points, in this case, it's the moon, Pluto, and Mercury, and I think Uranus is in there. Hang on, let me look. Yeah, Uranus is in there too. So these 3 points are in contention with each other. They're all vying for attention, and we gotta balance it out. Okay, so this T-square is also cardinal. And cardinal T-square is much easier to handle than a fixed. Mutable would probably be the easiest. I don't really ever see mutable ones though. The cardinal, this individual is inspired so much to get rolling, to get moving, to get on with the next thing, that it will help him break out of that stagnancy. All right, so moon square Pluto. What this means is it gives a scorpionic influence to the moon. Very intense, powerful, powerful emotions. I have this in my chart. The moon here, the mother-child bond and relationship will be very intense. The mom will need to be wary of any power struggles or any forms of manipulation, because that can come up with this. It's a very powerful position, and this person, this is funny actually, the Libra's going to try to cover up his true feelings to keep the peace, but Pluto's going to blast them wide open. Because when someone with this placement is upset, you can feel it 10 miles away. It's very, very intense energy. And he will need to be properly guided on how to process and express his emotions. What will probably happen is he'll stuff until it becomes a volcano that explodes. Okay? Now this can all be worked out. But as I said, this is a soul-chosen path that he had a reason for picking. So there's no wrongs here. All right, and then the next thing, with the moon opposite Uranus and Mercury. Mercury's how we talk, how we communicate, how we think. Uranus is a planet of sudden events and abandonments even. The moon here, opposite, his emotions will tend to overtake his thinking processes and muddle them. He's going to need to keep a good balance and not become too extreme in his expressions because of his, bubbling emotions. Uranus, now this, when it's tied up with the moon, it gives an Aquarian feel to the moon also. So he's got all these different aspects. The Mercury gives a mercurial aspect to the moon, like Virgo or Gemini. So that's that chatty, talkative. That's another angle he may do when he's nervous or upset. He may be overly talkative. The moon represents our feeling nature, our sensitivity, where we're really sensitive, and it also shows ingrained habits. Now with Uranus opposite the moon, this could show some kind of feeling of abandonment. Whether that actually happens or not, the individual may get that feeling, and what it does is it imprints the individual with a strong sense of freedom, because the moon represents our survival. So if you ever feel like you're being left, what do? You automatically want to become free of those feelings, free of that fear of ever being left again. Now, how this could play out, I'll just throw out an example here. Perhaps mom got sick. Let's say mom got sick. Or better yet, let's say mom got a job interview, and the job would entail her traveling a lot. Well, in this particular chart, this individual's already set up before the events happen. That's the way astrology works. It shows you what's coming, or what personality traits will be developed by events that happen. So this individual may see that job of traveling as, oh, I'm abandoned. And, another individual may not have this set up and may not perceive it that way at all. Or if mom got sick and had to go in the hospital for a week or whatever, suddenly this child would feel like, oh my God, I've been left. So looking at this ahead of time, the mom could communicate with the child. And I don't care how old the child is, if they're 5 days old or 5 years old, you can talk to them, especially on a telepathic level, and they get it. They know what's going on. So don't ever forget to communicate with your child, no matter how old they are. And, the mom, let's say she's going in the hospital. She, in the old days, nobody would have been consciously aware of, oh, I need to tell the child. And I'll just throw this in there too. You need to tell your pets too, because they talk telepathically also. But anyway, mom could pre-pave the event by saying, listen, I'm feeling a little under the weather and I need to go to this place and they're going to take care of me and I will be back and everything will be fine. Whatever she comes up with. But let the child know you're coming back. And then they don't have to go through that sense of, oh my God, is she coming back? Because from their little world, they don't know. They don't have a sense of time. Okay, now moving on, I think. One other thing. The moon, if you'll see in this chart, there's a heavy cross, black lines going across. 1, 4, 7, and 10. Those are the angles of the chart. I keep having to touch this ever so often so it doesn't go blank on us. Anytime a planet is in 1, 4, 7, or 10, like he has all these 3 planets up here, it magnifies that energy. It activates the chart. So I'm telling you, this kid has got a lot of energy, a lot of focus in this lifetime. So, it's great because, considering his past lifetimes, he's going to really get this show on the road this time. The reason I brought up the angles is because the moon is right on this angle. And when that happens, it's like it's in 2 different houses. It's like it's in the 3rd house and in the 4th house. Okay, before I leave the 3rd house, let me say this. Jupiter makes him very expansive. And Jupiter is trining his Mars. Mars is how we act, our initiative, our energies, how we express it. With Jupiter here, man, he is going to look at the world in very broad, big terms, and he's going to want to act on these big dreams of his. I see his early educational experiences, probably a pretty good time. He's probably going to really enjoy it. The moon shows sensitivity, hypersensitivity. So his feelings will be very highlighted in these experiences in community, siblings, education. And he might get his feelings hurt. Now, if there are siblings that come into this household, he's going to have he's got a lot of optimism and excitement around that, and he's going to be very bonded to them. If you're listening, parents, this is a sensitive area for him, and if there are other siblings, he's going to be very protective and probably very nurturing, motherly towards them. Now, this T-square will come into play with anybody else. All right, now we're moving on to the 4th house. 4th house is mom. It's the early home. It's also the home this individual will go on to create for himself. And we've got Libra on that cusp. So not even to mention the Taurus and the Libra emphasis, this Libra 4th house, he's going to want a beautiful, peaceful, harmonious home. And that is what his mother tried to create and will go on to create. A home where we don't have fighting and screaming and all of that. Very low-key, very peaceful, and beautifully decorated. It will be imperative for this individual to maintain their health and mental stability to be in a home like that. Okay? Now, it's interesting to say here, right here, you know, this couple could have 10 more kids, and we could look at their charts, and each child would have a totally different version or perspective of what went on in the family. So that's an interesting little side note. All right, now on his, let me look here, 29 Taurus, 29, okay. I was trying to see if Scorpio and Taurus actually get their own house in this chart, and they do. Yeah. Okay, it's like 1 degree Scorpio on the 5th house. But anyway, 1 degree left. Okay, but mostly the 4th house is Libra. All right, now moving on to the 5th house, which is right at the end of Scorpio. And the 5th house actually is the house of children, creativity, love affairs. This is where you artistically express yourself, or you creatively express yourself. And it shows people that you're strongly attracted to. It doesn't show the commitment yet. 7th house is the commitment. 5th house is dating and courtship. So with Scorpio here, he's got a lot of Sagittarius in that house too, though. We've got a little bit of mix of being drawn to someone that's very magnetic, very charming, charisma, somebody that's powerful. On the negative end of Scorpio, we would be looking at somebody that's got a power trip going on, somebody that likes to play games and manipulate. Now, I'm going to say this here. Because his south node's up there in that 8th house, that's the kind of folks he's been involved with in the past on the negative end. So if he gets caught up with somebody like that this lifetime, it's going to be a carryover of past life stuff. The Sagittarius included in this house is exactly opposite that. This is somebody that's expansive and energetic and optimistic and philosophical, a learner, a lifetime student, somebody that would really invigorate him. Next, we've got Saturn here. Now, Saturn is the karma planet. And with his 8th birthday, 8 is the number of Saturn. So he resonates with that energy. With Saturn in the 5th house, it shows, number one, he's going to be attracted to people he has a karmic history with. These are going to be people, they could be soulmates, but they could also just be people that he had a tie-up with in past lives. Another possible indication of Saturn in the 5th house is attraction to older individuals, or they don't necessarily have to be older chronologically, but older maturity-wise, like being drawn to a motherly type or a fatherly type. But this indicates wanting to hook up with someone who has something to teach you. As far as children goes, definitely drawing in, when he goes on to have children, definitely drawing in karmic relationships with children, spirits that he's been involved with in other lifetimes. His creativity, now let me look at this. Saturn is at 26 degrees Sagittarius, and his Venus 26.4. Yeah, there's no connection there. That's good. Yeah, his Saturn actually, let's look, trines his Mercury. That's good. and it trines his Uranus. So we don't have any, and then it does what down here? Let me look. Trines his, let's see, do we have a grand trine here on top of that? Yeah, we do. Okay. No, we don't. Hang on. That's opposite. Okay. We've got Saturn trining his Mercury and Uranus, and Saturn is trining his moon. Okay. Saturn trining this moon. I'm surprised I missed that when I was over there with the moon. This makes the mother-child relationship where the mother very much wants to teach the child discipline and, manners and how to survive in this world. It's a very practical, grounded placement for the mothering instinct onto the child, okay? Now, I want to say this too while I'm thinking about this moon. He's got so many placements to the moon. I didn't even talk about the moon and Jupiter. His moon and Jupiter are conjunct. That means they're holding hands. And that adds a Sagittarius flavor to his moon, which makes him not wanting to get down in the doldrums. When he gets his feelings hurt, his reaction may be, we already talked about how chatty he might get, and he might just run away with that Uranus. But Jupiter makes him want to see the glass as half full instead of half empty. Wants to put a lot of optimism on things. So with all these placements, 1, 2, 3, 4 different placements to his moon, that shows that mom is a very strong catalyst in the formation of this emerging ego and personality. And it shows how mom may approach things. Mom may, going gets tough. She may get a stiff upper lip and say, we just got to stick it out. She may want to see things from the bigger, broader perspective. Okay, this is why this is happening. She may get very chatty when she's upset, or she may even want to run away. Okay? All right. Have we covered everything? Yes. 6th house, we've got Capricorn on this house. The 6th house has to do with your health, your diet, and your experience in the workplace. Okay. Capricorn here shows somebody that's very disciplined and dutiful. And I would say as far as health, this is a good placement for him because we already know from his South Node he didn't really pay attention to all this stuff in past lives, and now he has a good, strong fortifying factor for it. He also has, with Capricorn here, also the work environment. This again, we had the 2nd house over here with the leadership sign, Leo. We got the 6th house over here, another house belonging to the work environment, Capricorn, which is another leadership energy. So I don't know that this person will be a employee. If he is, it'll be as a ladder, a step to get up to the executive position, because I don't see this person ever just being someone's employee or a coworker. Pluto here shows tremendous potential for change and growth. Wherever Pluto falls shows that you have big lessons to learn in this life, and usually it's lessons that surround issues of power. So how this could play out is he could get in a power struggle with his boss, maybe because he doesn't really want to be an employee, that kind of thing. In regards to his health, he needs to always be clearing out, whether that be emotionally or physically. Cleanses, fast would be great for him as he matures. Because Pluto rules the elimination system and also the reproductive organs, and you don't want energy to be congested there. With Capricorn on the 6th house, it highlights his skeletal system, so extra calcium for you. Leo over here on the rise is his heart and his back, his spine. The sun in Taurus is going to be his throat area. So thyroid's in there. And then we'll say with Mars in what, Gemini? Yes. Mars in Gemini is the hands and the lungs and the arms. Okay, so these are sensitive areas for him. And I just thought of something I want to go back and say about that Saturn in the 5th house. His expression, now I know he's got a lot of creative potential, but Saturn in the chart shows where you're a little bit nervous about that area of your life. And he may be a little shy when it comes to dating and love affairs and expressing his artistic potential. He may, anything that has to do with expression, he may shy away from it, and he could be very hard on himself in that area of life. All right, now, so we got the 5th house that shows our love affairs. The 7th house shows where we commit. In this chart, we have Leo on the 1st house, and once we cross over this 7th house line, we are now mirroring all of the houses. Every house has its opposite. So the 1st house is how you present yourself to the world. The 7th house is how you are reflected back through your closest friends, through your marriage, through people you live with. This 1 and 7 are mirror reflections. He has Leo on the 1st, and the opposite is Aquarius. So in his chart, what's going to happen is, and this is with everybody, if you have very many relationships in your life, you can go back and check this. But if you're somebody that's only been with one person your whole life, you may not get to see it play out. But in every relationship, this individual is going to play out the Leo role or the Aquarius role. And the partner or best friend or whoever, spouse, will play out the exact opposite. So let's say his best friend from 5th grade to 11th grade is an Aquarius. So he will get to act out all of his Leo glory. He will shine in the relationship while the Aquarius is kind of behind the scenes. Let's say he gets married to a Leo. So then this Leo, now they may vie for the spotlight, who knows? But let's say the Leo truly shines in her own right. Well, he will play the supporting role with the Aquarius energy. Now, that's not the way I'm describing this is not every one of these matchups. It's just Leo and Aquarius. Because Aquarius is not so interested in being out in the limelight. They're looking at the broader picture of humanity. Leo's wanting that spotlight on them. So it's very different energy. Okay, now, if he chooses an Aquarian type, and we've already learned that doesn't mean they have to be Aquarius sun. It could be someone with Aquarius rising, moon, Uranus here in the 1st house, an emphasis over here in fixed air signs. But Aquarian individuals, this right here on the 7th house, shows an unusual type of partner. Someone who's ahead of the times, who's a trendsetter, who marches to the beat of their own drum. They're very, very individualistic, and they're very much freedom-oriented. All right, 8th house. Now, we already talked a little bit about this with that south node that's invisible, that's here. The 8th house, remember the 2nd house was about the money he earns and his possessions. 8th house is the partner's possessions and money. 8th house is also the end of life, and it's also other people's money, not necessarily just partner. It could be banks or oil leases or inheritances. He's got Neptune here. Now, Neptune here shows a very psychically sensitive person, okay? So he's got a lot of intuition going on there. His Neptune I'm going to save that till I get over to Mars. Okay, now with Neptune here, it can show some confusion, some fuzzy energy around this area of life. It could even show some deception. So how could that play out? Well, let's say he befriended this tycoon. And when the tycoon passed away, he left his estate to this person. Well, this tycoon also had kids and a wife, and they want to get down and dirty about this inheritance. So there's all this muddled energy and maybe even deception, maybe the people cheating him out of the money. That kind of scenario. Not necessarily that it's going to happen, but that's the kind of scenario that could play out. All right, so Aquarius is still on this house. We move up to the 9th house, and we've got Pisces on this cusp. The 9th house is the opposite of that K through 12 education. This is college. This is beyond. This could even be, theological, a seminary, philosophy, spirituality. His Venus is here, which shows me what he truly loves. This kid is going to love to learn, okay? It would be a shame if he didn't get to at least try on college or some kind of beyond high school education, because he's going to want to expand. He will probably be a lifetime student. And I don't mean staying in a school forever, but I mean life is going to be his classroom, and he's always going to be wanting to learn. This is also the house of foreign cultures and travel to faraway places. So he's got that on there. Now with Pisces here, it makes one very idealistic about these areas. I mean, he may, as an early little boy, fantasize about faraway places and things. He may love fairy tales like Aladdin's lamp and things like that that take him mentally to another place. Chiron, this little dude here, this is not a planet, this is an asteroid. This is the only one that I include. Chiron, Chiron, was a Greek healer. He was the healer to the gods, and he's known as the wounded healer because one day Hercules was messing around and stabbed him and in like his thigh, and he got the sword out or whatever, the arrow out, but he was never able to fully heal the pain of that wound. And that's why he's called the wounded healer. Wherever this arrives in the chart shows where this person will be or has been wounded, and they are to take this wound and teach others from that space. With Chiron in the 9th house, he may have I hate to say just the word wounded, if you can see it as an initiation, because that's what it is. Every wound we receive initiates us, if we choose, to a higher stage of our development. So with Chiron in the 9th house, in Sagittarius's house, it shows wounding around maybe education, or maybe around his philosophy of life, religion, or these interactions with foreign cultures, because the 9th house rules these higher philosophical ideas and expansion of mind. Okay. Now, let's talk about this Venus, because Venus looks like she's having a little bit of a hard time. Let me look and just see. His Venus is in Aries, so this gives us another indicator of what he's attracted to. Venus in Aries can be kind of fickle, not like a Gemini, but more like in and out of love really quick. They get bored very easy, and Venus is our love nature. And in a man's chart, Venus indicates the female, so he may be drawn to an Aryan, fiery, independent type of woman or girl. All right, now Venus, let me look here. in Aries, Capricorn. Let's see, that's 26, 4, nope. I think it's clear, even though we got all these red lines, it's not actually aspecting anything, and that makes me very happy, because Venus can be, you know, she can be difficult. Your love life, your relationships can be difficult when you got problems with Venus. Yeah, no, those orbs are too wide. Okay, so this is good. Excuse me. All right, let's move on to the 10th house, which is uber important, especially in his chart, the midheaven, MC. All right. Aries is on his midheaven. This is the ultimate career house. The second showed the money, 6 is the work environment and work you may choose. The 7th is the path, your career path. With Aries, remember I've already said we got all these leadership planets. Okay, so that shows us he needs to be his own boss, or at least an executive position in a company. And he needs to have a lot of new beginnings in his work, because Aries is here to plant grass or flowers. They're not here to stick around and watch them grow. They love to be beginning new things. That's the cardinal energy. And remember, he's got that Aries emphasis on this chart anyway. All right, so then we modify that because he's got 3 planets in the 10th house, which add to his career. So he's got Mercury, he's got Uranus, and he's got the Sun. This kid is going places. If he lets himself fulfill that North Node of being his own, you know, he's building, being his own cheerleader, being, you know, his independent self of getting out there and hustling his way through life, he's going to accomplish a lot. The 10th house also describes your public reputation and how the world sees you. Aries, man, that's a fighter energy. That's somebody that gets stuff done, very like a fireball. Now, Mercury could show writing or speaking in his career. Uranus could show technology, anything ahead of the times, a trendsetter. The Sun getting back to that leadership energy. With Uranus here, the reputation, he could very much be seen as someone who is very much unpredictable. Now, I don't know how the mother feels about our current president, but I will say this little boy has a lot of the same aspects that our current president has. That Sun and that Uranus in the 10th house is the same as in Donald Trump's chart. The Uranus makes the reputation unpredictable, but also it could be disruptive, but also enlightening, because remember, this is ahead of the times. The Sun, this person's going to get respect. His Sun doesn't have any negative aspects. The Sun represents the father, the Moon, the mother. So he doesn't have any tension here, and whatever's going on with the Sun shows where we let ourselves, how far we'll let ourselves achieve in our career. So his Sun, now look, his Sun is sextiling Neptune. That gives him a natural, psychic, intuitive personality. He can read people. His Sun is also, this is the power play here, his Sun trines Pluto, which gives him a natural charisma and magnetism, and that just really feeds into that Leo that loves all the attention. He's going to draw attention whether he cares to or not, which we already know he does, but his energy is going to be very intense, very magnetic, and very transformative, very powerful individual. All right. Now, 11th house, this is organizations, groups. This can also be the fame house. This is your friendships. Now, he has, all right, let me figure this out again. I think it was, 1 degree of Taurus. This is 29 degrees Taurus, and then it moves into Gemini. So the people he may be attracted to as far as friendships and networking and, people in his public life may have that Taurian energy or even the Gemini. And then we got Mars there, which adds Aries. So a combination of that would be practical, sociable, and also fiery, go-getters just like himself. With the 11th, with Mars in the 11th house, it shows you to, he will attract Aries types, but also he may have some hustles and bustles because Mars is the warrior, and it can show where conflict's at. So he may have some conflicts with groups or even his friends, nothing to worry about, but there may be some competitiveness there too. His Mars is in Gemini. In a male's chart, remember the female, in the male's chart, the female he may be drawn to is Venus. That's the lover. Mars shows his sex drive and also his energy drive. With Gemini, now this is very much a fickle placement here. So, I don't know how important romantic relationships are going to be for it. Well, let's see. Hang on here. 5 and 6. Okay. All right. Let me reframe that. I think he'll have plenty of opportunities. I just don't know that he's going to be in it for the long haul with most of them. Okay. His Mars and his Venus are sextiling. Yeah. Okay. So that's a harmonious energy for his love nature and his sex nature, but also it makes him attractive to the opposite sex. When we have these Venus-Mars connections, it makes you kind of a magnet to others, to not just opposite, it can be any sex, but it can be romantic as well as friendship. You're kind of like a magnet. But anyway, getting back to this Gemini-Mars. The Mars in Gemini will show his interest in information, and we already know he's going to be drawn to learning. This magnifies that, wanting to gather as much information as possible. Loves to learn. Puzzles, whether they be, little, when he's little, pieces that he fits into different holes and all that. As he grows older, we got all these games on phones and stuff now, crossword puzzles, anything mental for him to figure out. All right, now the 12th house is our final house. We have Cancer on this house. Lovely that Cancer is in the most secret house of the chart, because this individual is going to be so out in the public. He's got all this public energy and this energy that draws attention to him. Saturn, Cancer here shows who he is when he's alone. And when he's alone, he wants to be nurtured and he wants to nurture others. He wants to be a little homebody. This is also dreams, nighttime dreams. It's the subconscious. And this is just a real cozy energy for him to have here. And notice he has no planets here. So he doesn't necessarily have any interest in digging deep into this area. This is also the hidden institutions where people go away to get well, or incarcerated, hospitals, any of that. He doesn't have any energy there, any planets there. So, like I said, he's going to be very, very public. But when he's at home, when he's alone, he'll self-nurture, he'll recharge his batteries, and then he'll go right back out into the world. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this. It's been an interesting chart. It's always fun to do children's charts before they've had a chance to live all of this. And, the parents can see the potential that's there, and they can very much nurture that potential. One last thing, I said I was going to save it. His Mars is trining his Jupiter. So that adds this exuberance and grand, huge desire. Whenever he does something, he's going to want to take it to its fullest zenith. He's going to want to shoot these arrows up into the sky. And I'll bet you money he hits a few stars. This little boy will go on to achieve his greatest dreams. There's nothing holding him back. Thank you for watching. This is Mystical Empress Brenda Renee. For more information, you can go to www.mysticalempress.com. Thank you.